Nuts. Sorry, Dave. Okay. It says recording has started, but I haven't said anything about that. Did you hear anything?
No, but I see the note too. No,
yeah, we are recording. So so welcome everyone. This is Noble Manna from Collective HR Solutions, and this is another session of the Technology Review Council. And I am very, very pleased. It's an unusual situation for us to do a two-parter, but David was very, very, I would say, engaging last time, and so that we didn't want to forget what happened 2 weeks ago, we asked David to come back in and finish in the rest of PivotCX and tell us a little bit about where this product is going. We had a lot of good questions. We had a very engaged audience. So again, David, I'm going to let you take it away, if you would, for just shall say, for those who didn't attend last week and are watching a video, please introduce yourself and PivotCX as well.
Great. No, I will. Thank you, Nova. I appreciate the opportunity to come back, and thank you everybody for if you're a previous attendee. But if you're new, I'll look forward to getting to know you guys better. But look, I'll start with a quick introduction about me. So back in 1995, I started my HR path at a company called PeopleSoft, working in a role that really became much more focused on the operational capabilities for our recruiting team. Essentially, what we might think of as a recruiting operations department. We, moved out of being a recruiter and more into kind of enabling a business function. As important as it was, because PeopleSoft, we were doubling in size every year that I was there. So rapid growth and needing to leverage tech to be able to get to great business outcomes. And it's really been a passion of mine ever since. The remaining 25 plus years that I've been doing this, I've been very focused on bringing in strong technology, either building those from scratch or being affiliated with vendors that provide amazing solutions that can be really leveraged for, like I said, amazing business outcomes. It's the passion in me. If I have to go to work, that's what I like to do. So a bit about me, right? So I've had a bunch of functional roles in HR. I've led talent acquisition and payroll and a bunch of other things, but have really been the leader around very large-scale technology implementations. I'm sure most of you have had similar. My last gig in corporate was to do a 3-year project where I 10 countries and a 60,000 person manufacturing company trying to standardize on a common HR payroll kind of platform. So going from a multinational to a global company, using a global HR implementation as a driver towards getting us to be one company versus 10 separate implementations. It was the people challenges as well and all that, right, to get to the new way of operating. But and ever since then, I decided I wanted to be more on the vendor side, delivering amazing solutions to a broader audience versus working for one particular employer. So here I am today, going to talk to you a little bit more about PivotCX. Our last session, so PivotCX is a recruiting communications hub, was our original go-to-market focus. For those of you that might know the phrase, but we are, a unified communication solution. We wrap together in a very fluid way a variety of communication solutions. We operate a hub. We're a console. We're the layer where you do the engagement and execution. We're not your system of record. There certainly are some very light system of record kind of capabilities, but our real shining capability is to be able to incorporate people, whether those be candidates or employees, contractors, workers, anybody that you're trying to engage with on the front end, and to be able to fluidly get them into conversation or send reminders and push things to them. But either way, this kind of business process flow that revolves around conversation of some type, and then move people to the next steps and update backend systems of record. We're that kind of bridge layer where you do that. We incorporate text, by the way, is both SMS and MMS. There's voice capabilities, there's video, there's email, automated chat, so chatbot-like features. In Q2 here, we're looking at probably adding WhatsApp. There's just going to be an ongoing pursuit of making more and more communication channels that interoperate so you can fluidly move a conversation not only across any channel, but also to various team members within a business process. So it's a pretty unique solution. It brings together the best practice kind of feature sets that you've seen in CRM, marketing automation tools, contact center solutions, and now we're starting to add feature sets that are more analogous to a ticketing system as well. So again, very workflow, worker experience focused. When you make it easier for your practitioners to execute on the business processes, then they have more time to be able to do other things, and we provide them the ability to also redefine roles and duties by having a team member focus. Anyway, that's a broad monologue type of intro, but Nov, does that help set the stage for today's conversation?
It sets the stage extremely well. In fact, it caused me to have 3 different questions, but I'll hold on those for a moment.
Okay.
Again, as we've done in the past, certainly anyone in the audience, now that we're using Teams, we can raise a hand. You see that at the top of the bar. Do so and I'll acknowledge, or you can pop stuff in the chat. That's just as easy
Please,
to monitor. Yeah. First question, knowing that last time you took us through a very nice demonstration of the candidate experience, which really was the starting point of what PivotCX is attempting to do. But as you talked about it, I'd love to explore a little bit later in our conversation this communication platform that seems to be expanding in all these, channels, if you will, because it seems to be an extremely important feature, which I'm not seeing in any other products. Let's put it that way. Give PivotCX applause for being out there. Recognize the channels of communication are not equal across all companies or even within the company. So I like that idea, and I'd like to explore it a little bit further, but I'll let you go into the rest of the demo, and then we'll get into that.
Yeah, no, one of the things that it's stating the obvious, but if I call out, if we all can remember back, none of us were there at the time, but we all know about how Pony Express used to be a way that was the fastest way to get a message across the country, right? And then we had telegraphs and then telephones, and there's just been this constant evolution of communication tools that we use in our day-to-day lives, either consumer or business or both. But they evolve, they change, and businesses need to keep up with those communication challenges. In fact, I think many of us on the call actually be interesting to get feedback on this, but we hear a lot about 2 phrases in corporate HR. There's digital transformation, right, and EX. We talk about experience and we talk about leveraging digital tools, but what does that really mean? And what is the experiential stuff, right? Employee experience, you get greater adoption and better business outcomes, and if you leverage these tools when things really work well, or you get the reverse, right? If you try to go on a digital transformation strategy but the tools don't interoperate, they're fragmented. Now you've got, in recruiting alone, and I'm sure it's the same problem in core HR, but it's not uncommon for recruiting teams to have 15 or more systems to have to engage with, especially if you count your job boards that you're using. Every one of those becomes a place to have to log into, get data, move data, they're just time sinks, right? It means that people don't really leverage it well in a day. So,
well, and to your point, David, I would add one more little piece, and I'll say, to me, it's not a little piece. I think it's actually foundational for us to understand the employee experience. We continue to say, like you say, it becomes much more automated, more self-service, more personalized. The idea of the digital transformation, that everything is being digitized. The problem is we're not addressing the humans. There's actually 5 generations working in many places, of which I'd say at least 2 of those generations, maybe even 3, are not digital natives and are struggling. So I ran into this with the client. Quite literally, they're out there. They're saying, we're going to bring in a brand new HRIS system with self-service and all that stuff. But great, how much of your population is going to be able to use it? Not only to your point earlier about the fact that, maybe I'm out in the field and I'm on a mobile platform and texting is much easier for me. But quite literally, even if I'm at a desk, do I really know how to use this thing? And so we are, I think that we have, to your point, communication has evolved. but we're not taking into account the human that needs to use it.
Right. Oh, yeah. So for sure, for example, a recruiting example, in 1995, I used to say to my candidates, no, can you please fax me your resume?
Yep.
Right. And
Do you have
if
enough paper in the machine for that? No.
well, yeah, so there's another side story there. But yeah, if I said that today, whereas so in 1995, that was, lickety split, you could get information sent to you, and candidates even had, many of them had a fax machine, right? But today, if you ask somebody to do that, it would slow the process down, right? The user experience would be horrible. You would get less compliance and adherence. Your conversion rates would stink, and right, you wouldn't get to the business outcomes you need. And you'd be delayed in getting there if you got to any amount of achievement. So this is where things evolve and change, and how do businesses, right? The whole point of digital transformation. In fact, no, I didn't get to see you, I think, at ShermTech, right? We missed each other.
Right,
But I
exactly.
yeah, but I
Yes.
led a panel at ShermTech, and the whole focus was, what does digital transformation really mean? I had an audience of about 350 folks, and I literally, by a show of hands, how many of you out here really feel like you have a good grasp of what that phrase means? I'm not kidding you. Less than 10 people raised their hand,
Believe me.
right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
yet, understanding how you leverage these technologies to be able to be agile and move forward fast, give your company a business advantage by leveraging this tech so you can stay relevant as a business and stay competitive, right? Creating competitive advantage through digital transformation is the only reason why companies are trying to do it. But if at the end of the day it creates a horrible experience and people don't adopt it, and right, it's a lot of wasted money and time, and maybe breaks relationship capability. Anyway,
Yeah.
I'm just, yeah, I could go on and on about it. This
Well,
is why
like I
it's
say,
great to
I
work
would love
with
to.
consultants, right?
I would love to give you the opportunity to finish up the demo, but I think it's a healthy discussion because, in all honesty, I'm not seeing a lot of platforms taking the same path as a PivotCX, in the sense of understanding that communication patterns are all over the place, aggregating and making them, shall we say, adaptable across whatever I'm doing. You mentioned WhatsApp, Slack, and so on. These are things that people are entrenched in using right now, that are singular, if you will. They're sitting out there for, let's say, an IT group doing X, and nobody else is using it in the company. So we have to be able to aggregate communication channels. I mean, that's what I'm hearing you guys doing.
Yes, thank you for summarizing it that way. The point solutions that are examples of ways to communicate versus a communication strategy where you then, what are the various communication channels I want to use? It's really a different mindset. The other key mindset that I will call out is that there are a bunch of tools out there that are trying to really focus on automation and give you the capability to automate as much of the process as you want to. Sometimes they'll even say, automate your entire process. Ours is a view that says it's a relationship business, whether it's recruiting or employee experience. You've got people that need people-to-people engagement at some point in the flow. So automation supports your ability to provide better relationship building moments. So maybe an FAQ experience is enough to start with, and maybe somebody can, get by with that. But at the end of the day, they don't want to talk to ChatGPT forever, right? There is a need at a right point. Maybe ChatGPT is the new version of an FAQ machine, but it's if they really need to engage and talk with and have someone to listen to them and understand their problem and challenge, and which is now exacerbated when they're working in a remote office or they're deployed remotely out in the field, then that makes it hard to be able to kind of stay tethered. And you can't build relationships with machines, right? As much as they act like they're listening to you, they not listening, right? That's not what they do. They interpret your text into something that they can try to reply back with that simulates human conversation, but that's not relationship building.
We're not
So,
ever close to that. Yeah, the Chat GPT is simply the new IVR, voice response. So, and
yeah.
we make these quantum leaps, as we call them, but they're not moving us further down the adoption side. So
So
anyway,
we take the stand that person-to-person communication is paramount, and how do you supplement that with with automation? But how do you kind of build your communication strategy around where do people need to engage with each other? What are the roles? What needs to happen? And then how can you augment that capability by layering in the automation? It's just a whole different approach. No slide. I used to run business development at a chatbot company, so I'm very familiar with, trying to sell that idea, and certainly it has a place, but it is
Mhm.
just a component of our overall communication strategy. So, I appreciate the opportunity. If anybody here is a consultant themselves, you guys would love to kind of talk with you about how, because we find our consultant world is channel is a great way to kind of take the message to market, because you have a trusted advisor relationship with your clients, then trying to convince a bunch of HR teams to buy this on their own, to buy into the ideas, is just a much harder process. So we've really opted to really focus on a partner channel strategy.
Well, you've got a nice crowd of, I will say, knowledgeable. I won't call them consultants because that may be sometimes be too generalized, but they're very good, smart people out in this audience. I know them all, and
Great.
quite literally, I think they'd be welcoming. So, did you have? I think when we dropped off last time, what we're talking about in PivotCX was the hiring manager component, and so we've gone through candidate, recruiter, hiring manager. What internal components of PivotCX are we seeing at this point in time, if at all, or had we pretty much ended, I guess is what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Because I'm happy to take us to that, and I would ask this audience to participate in their thoughts about this digital transformation, adoption, and employee experience. Because I think we all have experienced it in some fashion or another.
So what we can do today, and I would love any audience kind of, but what about, or how would you do X, Y, or Z types of
Mm-hmm.
scenarios you might be thinking about. I can do a quick recap here though of uh, some of the widgets.
Yep.
We think of this as, what we've landed on at the moment is that we're a communications hub, meaning that we're kind of in the middle, and then there's all these spokes. Um, what we're realizing is that the challenge of engaging with people rapidly and moving that through a business process is clearly not unique to recruiting. The fastest growing conversation I have beyond recruiting is, can I use this for my employee care, I'll call it. And right behind that are workforce deployment and talent management kinds of things, but heavily in HR operations, employee kind of support. And I get that both from staffing companies who have their contractors on their payroll, but now they're deployed at customer sites. But I also get it from, employers who, especially when they have a heavy remote workforce, or they themselves have their employees out in the field at customer sites as well. So it's especially good for that kind of when you have a disconnected world. Not only good, but it has a special kind of capability of kind of really making the quickness in achieving a connection. So the same mechanisms that get used to drive that capability through recruiting are what my prospects and my existing customers are saying to me, gosh, can't that same feature be also used this other way? And they're absolutely right. Um, so, Nova, I'll just call out some things, but feel free from your memory if there's anything you want to particularly call out. But, to have process flows, this one obviously is very hiring centric. So you can kind of see funnels and different things. But if you want to start tracking differently through a process, whatever that process flow could be, and we could have, if this is for compensation versus benefits versus learning management. There can be lots of different processes that we could have the flows be relative to each particular segment of HR.
So,
But
if you don't mind I love visuals. In fact, I'm a data junkie, as you well know, David.
mhm,
So I'm looking at this funnel situation, which I think is a very helpful perspective. It says, hey, look what's coming in the front door on our job posting, and
uh-huh.
here's what's coming through, and we're kind of, in a sense, watching the numbers, winnowing those down in, if you will, is pretty cool stuff. I'm curious, your as you said, this is the same dashboard I could have for, let's say, a performance management perspective. Here's all the things that we had to start with in performance management. Here's where we are in that. Not just performance management, if you will, from the standpoint of hey, we got the X people and we've done half of those. What I'm talking about is goal meetings. So in other words, what you've done is continue to build, I hate to call it the framework of the house, but you know, short of furnishing the house, you're building a lot of stuff here that has greater extensibility. You know, the communication patterns, the visualization perspective, the data that's being gathered can now be shown in a very different manner. It strikes me that you're kind of breaking some new ground here.
Well, we clearly find ourselves in a unique place because we're neither fish nor fowl, right? We're not right. We're not a job board, for example, and we're not an ATS, right? We're not a CRM, right? So trying to define what we are, and so it's positioning us as a communication layer. But if what I was trying to show you here, so for example, here's one of my customers who we've loaded up. In this case, they're all candidates, but we integrated with their CRM. And you can see there's nearly 250,000 people are in this solution. 250,000 of their candidates, but you could put any, right? And you saw how quickly I was able to pull them up. And they're all here in some kind of, we use a big giant spreadsheet kind of metaphor. If anybody can operate a spreadsheet, then they can operate this, right? Where you can quickly sift through your people and create lists on the fly or segmented groups that you want to, I'm not going to pull 250,000 people into a list. That would be silly. But if you wanted to kind of segment people by, actually give you a better, let me go to a team where there's better data to do that. I'm going to flip over to, let's go to the team we actually use for our own recruiting purposes here. But if I want to segment people and I say, I want to find all my software people that we've ever talked to for software. Well, there's 347 people of different types, right? But let's say I want to just know my full stack. I want to just quickly get back and helps if I spell. But so I've got 7 full stack developers, and if I wanted to quickly bring them into a group conversation, right? I'll just call it TRC sample. And now I've got these seven, right? But it could be 47, it could be 107. But if I want to now communicate to them in a one-to-one kind of one-to-many way, I can now create a group message, but it will be personalized, group message test. And now I can, leverage variables, right? I could do my $signs and, dear first name, whatever you want to do. I can pull in templates, put in emojis, whatever I'd want to kind of send as a message here. But if I hit send, right? If I send now, or I'm going to schedule it out, right? Pick a date and a time. But I now can communicate that quickly. I just sifted down from a group of 347 down to the 7 people I want to talk to, and boom. That's just one example of, right? Again, I said best of CRM, best of marketing automation, right? Best of, contact center tools. How do we bring these kind of core features? How have other parts of an enterprise learned how to be successful in their endeavors? And how are their HR activities that are so similar that could we leverage and get lessons learned, and so use this, put that into the software so that the HR teams can leverage those same kind of capabilities as well.
Yeah, and that, like you say, David, I mean, the extensibility of your platform just, I won't say it frightens me, it actually energizes me a lot. That, to your point, HR does not market well. They don't do things in I would call an exciting fashion. This ability to really personalize messages down to in the manner most people would like to have them, on their phone or whatever the case. Very cool stuff. I am very curious though. Are you seeing staffing firms, the kind of offshore recruiting firms and so on, that are outsourced staffing, if you will?
Yeah,
Are they
RPO
primed for this
yeah.
deal?
My fastest segment growing right now are the staffing and RPO companies.
Yeah.
I think not that HR isn't a great customer base, they are. I think that, and no offense to anybody on the call here, I'm going to be very broad and stereotype, but I find as I'm trying to now market a solution, most HR people have a hard time thinking of themselves as a profit center, and therefore have a hard time making a business case on how this can help the company make money. It's usually all about how can we try to, save money. And that's where kind of like, well, I reduce my HR footprint, I'm already small enough. There's a bunch of these, understanding how HR delivers business value to the top line is not, a lot of HR teams are not good at building those kind of business cases yet. I guess,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But I can imagine the RPOs are definitely one of your fastest growing segments.
yeah,
But
it will
what
increase
strikes
your
me is
productivity
those,
by 3x, right?
yeah.
Minimum, right? Go on. Sorry, I didn't mean to
But
step on.
those companies that are doing what I call them evergreen positions, you think that they would understand this has a tremendous impact. I mean, I see ATSs churning old resumes, but not very well. But this ability to not have to find the resume, but rather say, I did a quick search. I'm going to text. Here's the
Uh,
150 people who applied for this, construction job that didn't make it for supervisor. You can go back out there because we got another supervisor position open up or a new job coming up or whatever. I mean, it's this idea that the recruiter could even be proactive as things are coming at them. They're getting ahead of the crowd and they're saying, I'm out there already saying, hey, we've got a new job coming up. Are you guys interested? Come back.
so
It
that
just,
concept of re-engagement is sorry, I was bouncing
no,
around
no,
on.
no, that's okay.
But as I was bouncing around, to come back to an example of what you're talking about, no, here's nearly 300,000 people that we've sent an outbound message to. We've re-engaged with. All of these are past candidates in the talent community at this employer, but we've re-engaged with them through automation. And nearly 250,000, right? Almost 220,000, 221,000 of the 285,000 said, yeah, I'd like to talk to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And we filtered all 221,000 of those people through my call center team because this particular customer doesn't have an HR centralized function. So they leveraged my people. But we were the only way we could talk to 250,000 people, no, right? Was because we had this capability. In fact, I was showing you here. Here's a great example of how we can do this. I'm going to pull up from our recruiting team another example from the candidate list. Let me pull up Bradley. I was kind of pulling him up before, Bradley. What am I doing? Because I'm not in the right place. I need to go to my recruiting demo. That's why there's no Bradley. Give me a heartbeat.
Oh my God, this is all good.
Yeah, live demo. There's Bradley. That's what I wanted to talk to you about. So take
You're
a look
among
at that.
friends.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. The great thing about Bradley's record is that he actually responded after hours. And so we have a setting in the system that knows when incoming response comes in, if your team wants to have, we're no longer in the office at the moment type of response. So he got the auto response and here's what it said, right? And he said, yeah, I want to talk to somebody. And when Janae came in the morning, between 7:30 in the morning till 8:21, which, right, she had a conversation with him that you can kind of see here. But at a certain point, she realized that in this case, this was can I validate if this is a good candidate to move to the next step, right? But the other use case that comes up a lot in contact centers is tier one, lower level person, see if they can satisfy the support need, and then preserve the tier two and tier three people for fewer conversations, right? Because you don't want to overwhelm those upper line, right? So how do you kind of segment the work? But when something is ready to or needs to be moved to another conversation, to another person, Janae was able to move the conversation by assigning it over to Howard, left him some notes, and then Howard was able to come online, have the whole transcript history, but was then able to pick up the conversation and went from there, right? One cohesive conversation that then becomes part of the employee record or wherever you choose to store these things. Again, we're not meaning to be a record keeping system.
Right. Very nice.
So again, if you have status steps and you want to move candidates, or now it's employees, maybe this is, first ticket submitted and next, employee engaged, doing follow-up, whatever you might have whatever your status steps are relative to tracking your HR operations flow, right?
So you kind of live in this recruiting world so much, David, that maybe you've seen something. I'm searching for an answer here. I see studies how many people are out looking for jobs, the high percentage, etc. I don't think I've ever seen the question asked, would you always be looking for a job? Because I think the answer is probably everybody should be. In all honesty, I mean, why not? Why not? why wouldn't you? And to your point, what I was really trying to drive to is the fact that I may have applied 2, 3 years ago to something that was really interesting, but I was really geared for wanting to work for this company, and I didn't
Well,
get there.
to
Well,
my
what a
no,
great opportunity to just call me back and text her, or however you want to do it.
your story is well supported here, right? Here's a group of 285,000 people that years ago, 1 to 2 years back, had submitted to this employer. And to your point, no, nearly 250,000 of them said, "Yeah, I'd like to continue to explore possibilities of being there."
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
huge,
yeah,
right?
it is.
They didn't have to
I-
spend a nickel on trying to go remarket and spend ad spend on Indeed, for example, to recapture 300,000 people that they already had in their database.
yeah, it
Right?
is just and to your point about HR looking for ways to really make the business case, how much money do you think you might have spent trying to post the job back out to all the job boards, grab these people? You already have them. So
So it is. So engagement, um, re-engagement, as well as what was I going to say? I call it the apply to high use case. I'm trying to multitask here and doing a horrible job.
sorry.
Yeah, the apply to high is another way, but that's the analog to the apply to high is anytime someone has an immediate new interest in needing to engage with you, whatever that would be. If it's a brand new job, right? So here's an example where we're connected to a front end system. Let's call it Indeed. And how does that person from the front end express interest and get immediately into a conversation where here's 174 people who said, "Yeah, tell me more," right?
Mm,
And if I go randomly pick this character, Cheyenne, well, part of what Cheyenne's record contained was the information that came in from the system where she expressed interest. So we collected her document, her resume. That's key to that particular transaction. Um, but hey, Nov, I'm wondering, can I use you as a guinea pig here, Nov?
absolutely.
Let's go into the demo real quick. I'm going to add you into the system. Actually, you know what? I'm going to add you in through an interesting way. Um, yeah, because it'll
Yeah,
do
I
two
can
birds
see
with
the
one
crowds
stone.
leaving already.
Yeah. So
By
I'm
the way,
adding.
we did have a lot of folks who said they could not make it but wanted to view it. So when this recording is compiled, I'll sending out an email no later than tomorrow. There's a lot of people wanting to see the next installment. So
Perfect. So again, these are analogs. These are recruiting use cases, but they have a role in an HR way. If I'm in a system, right? So, if I take your phone number, what's your phone number? 650
okay, 740
740
6558.
6558. Did I get right?
Right. Uh-huh.
So we have a browser plugin. So for systems I'm not immediately integrated with, if I've not yet already pulled all your employees in, this could be a resume database, but this could be a ticketing system, right? Nova, I'm going to pull you into a conversation.
I knew exactly. You're reading my mind because I was going to tell you, is on your roadmap a customer support system? Because in all honesty, that's exactly what I was going to take you down that road and say, why would you not want this as a customer support new system for the same reason? Oh, you called me 3 times, David. What's the matter? Okay, did you not hear what I did? No, I just
Right. No, for sure. You could, yeah. And have that. That's what I was mentioning, the ticketing features that we're going to add, because if we start to deploy this in an internal use case kind of way, if an employee texts in and says they need help, and maybe that first step is it gets them an FAQ response, and then they say, well, I still need help, so then they respond with the word agent, and then that notifies someone on the team to now do like I'm doing with you, Mo, right? I reach out to you and say
right.
hi. Now, I said hi to you. Do you want to reply back?
Now, what's interesting,
You,
so
mhm.
I'll tell you as a test system, you came across as a um, let me say it the way it is.
It's a however,
You're
yeah.
sitting there as an unsaved number because beware of smishing and phishing. Smishing I hadn't heard of, and it's asking me if I want to block the number. How do you get around that?
All right, well, really interesting. So are you using Android or iPhone?
Android.
Android, because
I see the hi, but then it says reply stop to opt out or
right.
block the number.
So what we typically do are two things. I'm going to now jump over there real quick. And this is on a place where you're capturing initial interest. One of the questions we ask is, do we have permission to stay in touch with you, right?
Gotcha.
So that's one way. When we will brand register the phone number with the telcos to make sure there's a marketing plan submitted, which reduces the likelihood that you'll be reported as a spammer. You can see here, Noah, did you just respond?
Yep, I did.
Yeah, so you can see now my browser tab is lit up that there's someone here. I just also got a text message and an email that someone just messaged me. So I don't have to be trolling the system. But yeah, hi back, here you go. So
Well, you answered the question because, like I say, I mean, so there are the mechanics that you are trying very, very hard to address that would stop this from coming across as a blocked number.
well,
or
but also
spam
the
call.
first message out would probably say, you know, this is so and so from, right? You've opted
Exactly.
in previously, so you can, right? We didn't go through that exercise right now, but
Right.
you can make the first response be, hey, don't, this is telling basically who you are kind of message, right?
Yeah, and if I'm doing a lot of job hunting and I'm getting a whole bunch of phone calls or texts or whatever, I'm going to be a little cautious about how many of these things I'm going to answer, and it'd be nice to legitimize. Oh yes, this is this is PivotCX calling you back. Thank you very much for your interest, whatever the case may be. Like I say, you're addressing. Question for you: do you guys consult with your customers? I would suspect the answer is yes, but I'll ask it formally.
We do best practices review on how to use the system, but this is why I was saying earlier, my best go-to-market channel right now is to work with consultants who
Yep.
have the trusted advisor kind of role with their clients, who
Yeah.
then, and by the way, my consulting partners are making a lot more money on additional billable hours. Then they also have rev share opportunity with us, but the bigger thing is that it gives them more things to consult on, because there's conversation strategy, then there's what should
Yes.
the conversations look like, what's the process flow implications, and then there's the system implementation. There's just
Yeah.
a ton of things. So Nov, is this a good time for us to connect?
It is absolutely.
So I'm going to give you a call, right?
Good deal.
And so a Q2 feature will be to start grabbing the transcript from the audio. Today we only have the transcript from the text, but no, I hear your phone ringing. Do you hear it?
Yeah, I'm going to mute myself here and answer the phone.
Hello.
Hey there. This is us talking through PivotCX.
Outstanding.
Okay.
So do I have the job yet or not?
Yeah, you're in, man. When can you start? Can we go to video, Nov? Is this an okay time? Can we switch to a video call?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to hang up here now and I'll send you a text link. Hold on 1 second. So I'll close the call here. I'm going to jump on the video with Nov. And Nov is about to get a text message. He won't have to do any downloading, but now he and I can go on to a video call instead of just being on text or a phone call. Nov, if you go ahead and give your phone some permissions to access your camera, then you should show up here in the center section. There you go. And now we're in video together, and it's, so even though we're on Teams, but so we're on double video, but you get the idea here, right?
I can do twice as much work, honest.
Mm-hmm. So no download, right? Just quick and easy, all bundled in the fluid way. And it's now kept track of the fact that we had an outgoing call and we had some conversation on the video. Like I said, the next wave of feature set is to now start incorporating the transcript from the audio conversations that come in from the audio or the phone call, from the video or the phone calls.
So David, I mean, I find this very interesting because what you said as I was answering that call, I don't have to download anything. I don't have to have all kinds of stuff on my phone to use your product because you don't know who I am. You don't know what I use, whatever. How did you get around that? I'm curious about the technology sitting behind that.
Oh, well, so we didn't invent VoIP or texting, right, or video.
Right.
So what we're doing is putting the wrapper around in a orchestration interface. So our telco providers so we have several telco cloud companies that we incorporate their features. So they provide the video mechanism. We're just invoking it through the PivotCX solution here.
That it becomes a very seamless situation to me, the candidates.
Well,
Very
that's the
nice.
whole idea. Yeah, fluid, seamless, being able to kind of toggle between these and keep then the conversation flow. Because if I think, Nov, you're a great candidate, sorry, wrong feature here, but if I want to assign you over, let's say it's a call into the HR operations, and you know what, you're calling in because you wanted to have a benefits question, and I wasn't able to help you, but let me send you over to my head of benefits, for example, or I need to send you to, I don't know, our legal team, and Joe Legal is not in the system, right? So I can invite Joe Legal into just this one conversation where he or she, and Josephine, whoever, but that other person who's not necessarily part of the team already, we can still invite them in and they can participate in a singular conversation versus all the conversations that are contained within that team.
So the underlying perspective, I think I said this the first time, but I just want to make that point one more time. All about speed. It's all about speed. Your ability to move me along the line to get me to a satisfied level of an answer, an interview, whatever the case it is. Like I said, the extensibility of your platform it to me, I don't think there's many places you couldn't go.
100%. Here's another thing that's in the speed category. I'll show you. Very applicable to an HR operations. If you have a shared services group, so let me go back. Okay, we'll pick, actually, sorry, I want to not do that. Let me get back to my home.
And I'm watching the chat. Nobody's asking any questions, but I wanted to say, if you don't mind, maybe the last 15 minutes, let's open up for this group to ask or even take a little bit of that poll, as you said. Do they agree with your perspective of this digital transformation, the employee experience, etc.?
Okay, yeah. Let me show you.
Going here.
Let me show you one quick thing on that, and then yes, we can definitely move over to open Q&A. I'm just going to go back so I grab some of those Indeed example, an extra month, and so we had an extra 20 some odd resumes. But so let's. I'm just going to pick up Erica real quickly here, and with Erica, if there are call center, if you have groups that are regularly taking the initial phone conversation or email inquiry, but if you're going to now engage with a candidate and there's lots of things that you say repetitively, we have these, in this case, this is an example of the team we use when we're recruiting our own candidates, and we recruit for two primary roles, software developers as well as chat agents, because we deliver a chat service for some of our customers. But if I wanted to give, these scripts are pre-populated ways of kind of saying things that you would say over and over again. So if I want to call them up, I can do a keystroke command, or I can come over here to scripts. But if I just basically pick any one of them, it will throw into the chat whatever that script says. And so one way that we're doing this, so this person, Janae, for example, she's the team leader in our chat room. She engaged, I'm not kidding you, Nov, with over 1,000 people one day. Her personal best was she was running conversations for multiple customers where she was the employee for that customer, right? But how did she know how to do that? So she ran around, she got notified whenever there was someone on any other team, right? Between the various teams she was a member of, and she was able to get notified. You saw the circle light up, and she got audio and she got message, so she didn't have to be on any particular team trolling for messages. The system told her when there was somebody waiting, she would engage with them. She would follow the script. So if it was question 1, 2, or 3, right, she could walk through the questions, pre-populate, right? So she didn't have to remember all the questions. She could just, and again, that's because we were trying to provide a human-to-human experience. If you're going to lay it out in templates and script format, then you could theoretically automate the whole experience. But what we have found is very often, even though you might ask a very scripted question, your candidates and your employees ask you something that's not that's off script.
Exactly.
Right? And that's where the chatbots don't know how to flex, right? Maybe ChatGPT will start to help with some of that. But till now, what we've definitely seen is that being able to kind of be fluid in a conversation with humans enables another human on the other side. Otherwise, it becomes a very kind of rote, scripted kind of mechanical engagement versus a personalized experience.
No, I love it. I love it. It is right on the money. So,
well, yeah, so open questions, right? We wanted to.
yeah, I was going to say, so folks, this is our opportunity to either express your opinion. I normally don't do this, but this is a trusted group of people. No, just let's ask David, whatever may be sitting top of mind. Like I say, my personal feeling is that what I'm seeing in the platform, David, is an extensibility, as I like to keep calling it, to take this down so many roads. My question then becomes, do you invite partners to bring solutions to the table of functionality that could benefit from sitting on your platform?
Oh, I love it. Thank you. It's as if I tried.
You can pay me later.
I have to say, if I planned this. So Q2, we're working on something we're calling our flow library. And really what we have, in trying to sell a solution that's extensible, the good news is it's extensible. The bad news is it means that you have to help define to the buyer the ways it can be used. And so what we're going to package those use cases as flows. And so we can have these templated kind of shelf library kind of plug, click and I want that one and that one and that one. And it will then auto configure through templates, turn on something that's at least 80% of, and they can use it straight away, or again, working with consultants, they can tweak it. But yeah, we're working towards, if you want an employee engagement, HR operations, benefit question flow, for example. Right? You want a job alert flow, you want to apply to hire, you want hiring events, you want to do employee reminders for training classes, you want to, truthfully, because again, you can leverage automation as well as person to person, one to many in a blast, one to many in a campaign where you have drip style and things going out. So if you need to get a bunch of people to sign up and they've not, then the people that have don't get reminded, the people that do are. You want to do pulse check surveys. You want to collect documents from folks. And again, all of these kind of various things that are kind of bread and butter, kind of core HR requirements, but aren't the strategic HR. But right, how do you make it so HR can fulfill those duties, plus being able to support, real strategic kind of requirements, right?
Exactly. No, to your point, I like the idea that you're creating those flow libraries, and you and I will talk afterwards, because I have some ideas of folks who may want to either reach out or I can help to have you connect with them. But so to your point, I think in the performance world, this is a nice deal to remind people to check their goals. I'm not replacing the frequent communication. This is the new genre of performance management that says, manager, employee, we are going to meet weekly at 11 o'clock on every Friday and see how you're doing on your goals. That didn't solve anything personally. It's a continuing reminder. And, oh, by the way, here's I'm seeing you've got a question. This goal that I had out there, what do I do? You start bringing the human to the table when he really needs to be there, as opposed to answering the more mundane aspects of a question. And I think that would improve the performance management, learning perspective, the whole 9 yards of I have this curriculum I'm trying to follow. I'm not sure exactly where I need to go. Okay, so here comes your platform. In the middle of that, I still have more of a question. Let me put in front of you the person who did the class, and they can answer that question. To me, there's just, I like that next step that says, I'm going to automate it to the point where you really don't have anything that fits the pattern, and I'll just bring a person there, and we're done. I love it.
Calendar links, so assigned to the user. So I'm just showing here, you can put in whatever links that are relevant to you. But what I was showing on the front end, if you have a team where someone is now messaged in, and if anybody in the group, anybody who's on the team can pick up and engage in that conversation, here's 8 people that are waiting to be engaged. But if we pick this up and want to start talking to Patricia, but then how do I move that through a flow, right? Could be, maybe she texted the word benefits help, or the phrase, right? Or maybe there's a unique phone number for the benefits department compared to the payroll department. There's so many different ways, but she could text a word or use a QR code to be able to, get some maybe FAQ help. And if it didn't help, and she still needs somebody, then right, she can get, either talk to an agent live, or here's my calendar link to the next level person, and she can now self-schedule. I mean, I just see all these different ways that my customers are using the extensible features.
We don't stop at a point where the chatbot has run out of answers.
Right. Here's a document collection.
The worst thing in the world is have an IVR system or a chatbot hang up on you.
Oh, all the time I get disconnected, right? Because I keep saying agent. Yeah. On Patricia's record, she has no documents, right? But if I take this copy link, and this is what she would, if I send her this, which I actually just did by mistake, but I know Patricia, she's on my team. So, but anyway, she would get a page where she can upload documents. I'm going to grab just an example here. Let me try to, I have one that's, here's the front of a book that I'm, right. So anyway, I'll add that to Patricia's record. And if I come over to, let me close it and refresh and come back, but you can see I can collect documents from people. So I can send an automated message to somebody and say, here's a landing page. Here's all my new hire forms. Download them, ink them, take a picture of them, send them back, and then that can pass and push that.
I'm having a problem on my computer. I need your help. Here's a screen print of it. Boom, there it is.
There you go.
Boom.
Right.
I love it. Well, let me make sure that we started out to ask the audience. Nobody raised their hand, so I'm going to ask again. Dennis, Bruce, Brendan, any of you guys got some questions you want to pose to David? I don't want to hog the conversation. I could do that for hours.
Time does not allow me to ask all that I have to ask. So I'm going to reach out to David at another time.
Please do.
Welcome.
In fact, if you don't have your slide in there, please put that in the video on how to contact David Bernstein. Although those that are listening, you know how to find me. But I was going to say something very quickly.
Spam them with comments on LinkedIn.
Yeah. So, Dennis, I'm going to say it this way.
Yeah.
I think we ought to be talking to David about the IREM website and being able to answer questions that people may have about our organization.
Yeah, it's a good idea. It's a good tool.
It's an excellent tool.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Dennis has managed to elevate the notoriety of the IREM organization extremely well in his chairmanship. And so we're getting lots and lots of hits and so on. I think we need to go that next step to help answer the questions and get them very interested. Have you gone on and looked at this and that? Or you came back and saw us. Here's a link to our certification program, our webinar program, or whatever the case may be. I think to your point, this is a marketing tool that has a home in HR. It's got, it's got more extensibility than I've seen in anything recently at all.
I have three distinct, we have our HR use cases. Sorry, I'm bouncing to the wrong tab. But marketing use cases, one of which is I have one of my partners also runs conferences. And so they're using my tool to generate, for registration, ease of registrations. It's really at scale, they're kind of capture registrations. I think classes, it could be instead of conferences. Then they're actually using the tool for some during the conference communication capability and post-event follow-up messaging and workflow and kind of what's the, right? So in fact, the same partner used it to send out 8,000 Christmas cards just to stay warm with their audience, right? So marketing related activities, HR related activities, recruiting related activities. There's at least these three distinct ways that are already being asked for a lot as we could move into the marketplace. So,
Bruce or Brendan, any other questions you want to pepper David with?
This is Bruce Nova. Yeah, I think this looks great. I think the trick is always how do you get folks engaged to use it? I mean, recruiters typically, and this has changed over the last year or two, just have more things to focus on than they can actually do, and then they have to be very tricky in terms of their interaction with the hiring manager as things slow. Things may cause the process to slow down a bit, and so being able to David's point, work that relationship. and be really part of the team and not some function that sits over someplace else, in its own little silo, unintegrated. And so, this certainly looks like a way in which you could help that integration. The other thought is hiring managers are an interesting crew, and often are a real challenge in the process, because they're not just hiring folks. They're trying to run a business, they're trying to do a bunch of things. Then issues, start to run into issues potentially with bias and things of that sort, which can be very tricky to deal with. So again, something that can help bring them into the fold that they can use, hopefully simply, is a great idea.
I appreciate hearing that. Yeah, we have a bunch of things that can be configured. I'm waiting for the creativity to get to a point
Gotcha.
where we've not been able to meet it so far. Yeah, we're either doing it all already or taking these good ideas and then feeding them in. The number one kind of case study feedback we get is, I have fewer places to have to interact now. And so creating a console is really an ultimate goal for us. And so I would never say we're perfect on that, Bruce, but
Right.
but that pursuit is to be able to have fewer and fewer places that you have to also go to. Because
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, yeah, how do we capture that? And then also, how do we synchronize what's captured and push it back to a system of record, right?
Yeah, right. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, as it continues to be a challenge, I'm sure. And a question, David, how much have you seen, what, if any, effect has the pandemic had on, from your perspective, on the recruiting process? Are folks more interested, I mean, in moving along, or less, or has it no impact? And again, this would be a great, as you talk about people being home by themselves, this is a great communication process to be able to give them the ability to interact with, so that they're not those lonely islands.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. To feel a little bit more connected, especially if you can get, hey, it's how's it going while you're out in the field or something. You get pulse check surveys as part of
Right.
it's one of the flows that we have available.
Right.
But
yeah, it's yeah. And to Nova's point, I mean, are you always looking for your next job? Well, again, trying to build those talent communities that keep people who are maybe warm but not hot, ready to jump when the opportunity exists. I mean, a great way to kind of manage that community, if you will.
yes, I have a very large technology company I can't say their name, but they do a lot in the cybersecurity space for your home computers. Starts with an M, but anyway, they're not hiring right now. They're on pretty much a hiring freeze for their technology roles, which is the bread and butter of their business. But what we're doing for them right now is they're staying warm with all their IT talent, all their engineering development talent, to say, look, economy's wacky right now, but we want to stay in touch with you. They're kind of nurturing and keeping, right? How do you do that traditionally? That's hard. Right. But now and if you want to set up time, our recruiters will take a conversation with you. Here's my calendar link. But how we want to stay in touch with you, and we'll want to get back. Please stay warm with us type of sentiment. Is that what they're trying to convey?
Right.
Yeah.
And to your point, David, about communication, I do believe that companies really need to understand that their, employee communication really could easily extend to candidate communication. Let's keep you abreast of what's going on in our world. I think in the long run, that makes a lot of sense.
Here's our latest white paper. Here's our last quarter.
Exactly.
How did it go? Yeah. Yes. How we doing?
How do you keep in front of them? How do you keep in front of them when they're not ready for you? But how do you keep on their radar screen?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying the best of CRM features. We like to jokingly say we put the R in CRM, but whether that we can claim that or not, we definitely are trying, though, to enable the relationship. Most CRMs are about keeping track of who you have a relationship with, not necessarily doing the engagement with those who you want to, communicate with.
I love that explanation, David. I would grant you then you put the R into everything.
Well, it's the CXEX kind
That
of
would be your new motto.
Fill in the blank X right here on what you're trying to do. Right? Yeah.
Well, I have to say that a second installment of David Bernstein and PivotCX is well worth it. For those of you, I probably should have put that at the front end of this recording, but I would love to say, as you continue to extend, I'd love to bring you back for other use cases outside of the recruiting world as time goes on. And I'm hoping that this organization, the Technology Root Council, as time goes on, can help you get there faster. So.
And I'm going to say, I have, again, here's my contact information, but if anybody today had a great idea for a flow you think should be in the system, look, we started as a, I mentioned Janae and our chat services team. We actually did not start as a software company. We were a services company doing screening services as a fractional RPO capability for many customers who didn't have the bandwidth and just wanted to talk to high quality candidates. So we were their filtering team. What's happened though is after 3 years of building a solution that enabled my internal team to do that, more and more of the customers said, well, can't I use it myself? And here we go, right? So we now, about 9 months ago, transitioned to really being a technology SaaS company with some amount of services versus really being nearly 100% services focused.
Outstanding story in its own right. Yeah.
So as we listened to our customers and built things, it started with my internal team saying to my CTO, you want me to do this job? Well, guess what? I need you to build me this feature. And we kind of, and that mentality is in our DNA of listening to people and how it can become more usable. So I invite everybody here today, if you have any ideas on what you would see as being more useful, we would love to hear about it.
Okay.
So
by the way,
thank you everybody for your time
so
today.
I'm curious about one very quick thing, and my eye is part of the problem. On your website, is it not PIVO? Is it not PivotCX?
Sorry. Yes.
No, that's quite all right.
Yes.
I want you to be great.
Wow.
Good eye, Nove.
It's a bad thing on my behalf, but no, it happens once in a while. So no, cool. So now we're there. Okay, great. David, I will be calling you later. Thank you very, very much again for the second installment. I appreciate it. For those of you in the audience who are listening to this, there are more sessions coming, and we will bring back David and PivotCX, which over time you may have to take that C and become EX, like as you said. So make sure you grab that domain name early.
I appreciate everybody's time. Thank you today.
Guys.
Yeah, really.
All right, everyone. Stay well.
Great
Talk
show.
soon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. Cheers, everybody.